Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Spotlight. And today I spot Mr.
Arent Van Wassenar.
and he's the founder, the Faithful Goose BV Netherlands. Excellent. So over to you, sir. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. My name is Arent Van Wassenar, and like you already said, I'm the founder of the Faithful Goose, which actually is a one-man band. It's me flying on the wings of that Faithful Goose, which serves as a vehicle for me to provide all sorts of construction law related services in terms of being an arbitrator, a dispute adjudication board member, or a mediator, or just an advisor. And my sole aim in my professional life is to help parties to make their projects successful. And one of the criteria, therefore, is a project which is completed without any disputes, which the parties could not have resolved themselves. So that's what I see as what my single aim in my professional life.
Okay, so let's start from your aim. When did you start your career? Will you please put a light on it and on your journey in the law industry?
Okay, so I started my professional career in 1983, which, by the way, is 43 years ago. Terrible idea. And I started just as a trainee at a Dutch law. I'm from the Netherlands, so in a Dutch law firm called Houthoff. I was not involved in construction law. I did divorces, bankruptcy, labor law, whatsoever. But as you go through the motions of your career in such a law firm, within 3 years, I ended up as a senior associate in the construction law department. And the reason I got there was because I liked those partners the most. So it was not for construction law, but for the people. But going on and further, I really developed a certain love, I would say, for construction law, but also for something different. Because in 1988, I was granted by my then law firm to spend some time in Boston, where we had another partnering law firm and on exchange. And I took the opportunity to spend a couple of weeks at Harvard Law School at the negotiation project, as it's called, to learn about how to negotiate not on a zero-sum basis, but on the basis of mutual interest. And after having completed that workshop, I thought I'm actually not suitable as a lawyer anymore, because I want to stop fighting and only help people to negotiate or be helped in their negotiations to resolve their issues amicably. However, I stayed on as a lawyer for the next 28 years. And in that time, I more and more and more tried to use all my capabilities to make, like I already said, construction projects successful by making sure that by applying my skills, they would have contracts which helped all the parties to complete their projects in time, within budget, and according to what was needed, the scope, and within everybody's satisfaction, and without any disputes which they could not resolve themselves. And that was the further, theme of my professional life.
Would you like to share one case which is close to your heart and you feel it was such a significant impact in your career and you feel proud of that to solve that case?
That particular court case was actually a construction related case. It was a procurement case. So procurement and construction law go hand in hand everywhere, because without the tender, without the procurement, you don't have the contract. And this was a case where the award of a contract to my client was challenged by another party. And in our country, you can try to get an injunction, and that injunction then either stops the award or sustains the award. In this particular case, the award was sustained, so I was very happy. However, the other party challenged that decision and went into appeal together with two other parties which also had an interest in the outcome of the case. Their lawyers submitted to the courts, ten thousands of pages of documents which try to substantiate their case. And in Europe, which is actually German, which comes from a famous German poet called Goethe. I don't know whether you've ever heard of him. And one of his famous quotes is from a poem where he says, in making things very small, there you have the real master. In really diminishing the number of pages, that shows the master. In German it says, in der Beschränkung zeigt sich jetzt der Meister. And I was looking at all those pages of submissions and I thought, now, I'm not going to do this. So when we went into the courtroom, I was thinking of this quote of Mr. Goethe. And actually I had made a legal argument. And that legal argument was that their challenges could not be lead to an award of their positions because there were court cases in which it was said that what they said could only be done if there was sufficient law supporting their position. And there was no law. There was only hearsay. And then I looked again at the poem because I was interested. Maybe I could use that quote. But I never read the whole poem. And the whole poem actually said that, well, in German, I'm not going to quote it in German, but generally it said, actually, you will find your blessing in the law. And then making things small will show the master. So the only thing I had to do was say, Your Honors, the only thing I can do today is quote Mr. Goethe, who said, actually, you will find your blessing in the law, and there is no such law. And in making things small, it shows the real master. And I rest my case. And then I won.
So then what the judge ordered?
The judge said that they just dismissed their case because they challenged the abort in first instance.
And you won the case?
I won the case. Well, it's a famous saying in Dutch legal practice because people always submit all these things and then other people say, in der Beschränkung zeigt sich jetzt der Meister. In making things small, that shows the master. This is just rubbish. It's too much. So we often use this, although we don't speak German. So, but here, apparently, the fun part was that it was not alone that sentence, but there was an other sentence, to me, much more important.
Was it that sentence?
It was the other sentence, that salvation, more or less, could only be found in the law, which was my position all the way in that court proceeding.
All right.
That's a little bit theoretical, but it was a lot of fun.
It was quite
A lot of fun was, imagine you are at this hearing. The other attorneys had just pleaded for 2 hours. And I had to, then it was my turn and I had to defend my case. And I only had 3 pages. So the justices saw my 3 pages. Is that all, Mr. Van Wassenar? I said, yes, I don't have much more to say. And here it is. And then in 5 minutes, I was gone. I was done. And then I won the case. So that was my most fun court case ever. So we're here in India. I would say it was karma.
It's karma. That's correct. So it's karma. That is why you won the case. So it works in a
Karma.
Is it works in law?
It works in law because you can have all these statutes and you can have all these jurisprudence.
Hang on.
But in the end, as humans, we have to make the call. And they look in the other in the eyes and now, this is not gonna work. It's karma.
Yeah, it's karma. That's a challenging case in your life.
Well, I've had many more challenging cases, but this is the one I always think of when into becoming a construction lawyer. I did 3 years of all sorts of general law, including criminal law, as a very young lawyer, but only 2 years. So actually, my most famous case was a case. So in those days, you were on call as a lawyer in the weekends or on evenings, and you could get called by the bureau of what we call picket, and you had to come to the police office to meet your client who was just arrested 1 hour ago. So I met this guy who was arrested on the basis of suspicion of being a drug dealer, a heroin dealer. And he told me, no, I'm completely innocent. So you have to either or not believe your client. So I really said, are you sure? Yeah, I am. So then I represented this client it took 6 months actually, because it was a very involving many witnesses. And all those witnesses said that indeed they had testified against my client because they were also arrested at the bureau. They were junks, but they were told by the police that if they would testify against my client, then they would get methadone, which is a heroin replacement medicine, which is, well, people, the junks in the Netherlands who have that, get that. So there were 20 witnesses against my client, and all those witnesses told the judge under oath that they were actually bought by the police. So in the end, as you can guess, my client was released. He was not convicted, and I was very happy. But then a couple of months later, because my client had been in jail for 6 months, but he was innocent. At least that was the result of that proceedings where I defended him. And what you then do is go to the court again and ask for compensation for all those days, because there's a rate of 100 guilders or 100 euros or 100 rupees per day that you've been in jail. So at the hearing, I hoped with my client to ask for that compensation. My client did not attend. He was not there. And in those days, we didn't have mobile phones, so I could call my client. I was sitting there alone. And then the attorney general who was presenting the government said to the court, Mr. Van Wassenar is waiting for his client. His client will not appear today. He was arrested yesterday in the possession of 500 grams heroin. And there, because actually, after that, I stopped doing criminal work.
Oh, it was such a nice story.
It was a nice story, but I was completely. I mean, he it was just rubbish. I was lied to. It was terrible. I fought for 6 months for him. Yeah,
And he's going to be innocent.
he was not innocent. Of course, he wasn't.
And then again, he got the mistakes.
Yeah,
Gosh.
yeah. So that's my tragic story of being a criminal lawyer. The reason why I stopped doing criminal law and I decided to devote for the full 100% to construction law. Lawyer, but as an arbitrator, if you don't mind. Okay, so in arbitration, you get confronted, and arbitration cases always take place 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year after the damage has been done. So in fact, the two lawyers representing their clients come up and try to present facts and make up virtual reality, because they recreate their cases on the basis of the documents and the facts and the records and all there is, and also on the basis of expert reports. And the one expert says story A, and the other expert says story B. And that's what they're telling the tribunal, the arbitrator. So if you're sitting there as an arbitrator, you have to deal with all these apparently contradictory expert reports. You need to find a way out. And a well-known method of trying to find your way out is what we call hot tubbing. It's a very strange word, but it means you put both experts in a hot tub. The hot tub meaning the room where the arbitration takes place. So you set them together, you put counsel away, and you will have a conversation with the two experts. And because they're both experts, so they're not lying or whatever, they're just experts, but they have an opinion. And the fun part of that up-tubbing for me is when I act as chairman of such a tribunal to first ask expert A the question, so thank you very much, you've now told us your resume, but what do you think of expert B? And then always expert A will say, I highly respect expert B. You say, thank you very much. And if we go to expert B, then he will explain his resume, and then we ask questions. And what do you think of expert A? I highly respect expert A. So now you have two experts who have been contradicting each other as experts, but who are highly respecting each other. And from then on, they will actually start to agree. And in the end, they agree on everything almost. And that makes it very easy for an arbitral tribunal, I must confess.
Great. And my next question to who is your mentor in the law?
My mentor is. So when I started as a junior trainee, my mentor will be in the Netherlands called a patron. So my patron was a senior lawyer who taught me that the law was of secondary importance. First, it was about the people involved.
Yes, humanity.
Exactly. So fast forward to 2016, I was writing a book which is called A Practical Guide to Successful Construction Projects. And for that book, it was before MS Teams and before Zoom, before COVID. I traveled around the world and talked to 25 project managers and project directors, asking them what for them made a project successful. Actually, one of my hopes was that they would tell me that to make a project successful, a contract, a legal contract, was extremely important. And so my question to them was, what can we as lawyers contribute to making projects successful? And remember, these guys were not lawyers. They were engineers, project managers, contract managers. They looked at me and said, nothing. Contracting is of secondary concern. That's not the story you will hear today here in this construction law conference, but that's what real people who are building those projects are telling me. So that was actually my most important lesson. First, again, what my first patron told me, it's about the people, how they interact, their professional standards. The law comes second.
It's absolutely correct, sir. And my next question to you, any book or movie recommendation do you have for our viewers?
Well, I will not push my book, which title already because it's far too expensive. But there are some books around from non-lawyers which explain a little bit how projects can fail and how they go wrong. And there's a famous professor in Europe called Vliebjerg. I will spell it. Foxtrot, Lima, Yankee, Victor, Bravo, Echo, Romeo, Golf. I think I did it right. He's a Danish professor, but he teaches in Cambridge, who has done serious studies on why projects fail. And one of his best books is written in cooperation with an American journalist. It's about mega projects or whatsoever. But if you go to Amazon and you use his name, you will find it. And that's one of the best books I would know to read to understand how projects fail and how we, perhaps as lawyers, can contribute in risk management and avoiding things to make project works. And you will find, again, that's all about the people who forget a couple of questions, a couple of lessons. One of the most important lessons is 3 lessons: fail, fail better, fail best. So that's one category. And the other one, which you will learn from somebody is called Edward Merrow, who has done some significant research on how projects should be set up to make them successful, is 3 lessons again: plan, exclamation mark, plan, 2 exclamation marks, plan, 3 exclamation marks. And those 2 lessons are, as far as I'm concerned, the most important lessons to make. Yeah, because most projects fail because they're not sufficiently prepared, because people want to speed up and forget a couple of issues. And that's how things can go horribly wrong, as I've learned in massive projects during my career.
And how you use AI in the law?
That's a funny question to ask. Actually, I do have a podcast myself in Dutch. Yeah, so in Dutch it's called bouwen met vertrouwen, building with confidence or building with trust. And one of one of the podcasts, in fact, I interviewed ChatGPT. She was female, and we had prepared it well, the two of us. So I was interviewing the voice version because I already knew that ChatGPT knows so much about construction projects and contracts all over the world, and it really was a very interesting thing. So one of the questions I asked her, because like I said, she behaved as a female interviewee, was how can AI help construction projects to be better? And she, as far as I remember, says 3 things. First of all, we can do a lot of preparational work. Secondly, we can help you with all the documents and prepare. And thirdly, when it comes to disputes, we can also help you with, well, sorting out what's important and what's less important. And one of the topics in the last session of today was exactly that. How can AI help in making projects? Yeah. So exactly what was said there was confirmed by ChatGPT herself. And I can only say yes, because that's what I do too. When I'm coming into a project with issues, I ask questions just to check. Just I upload some documents in a safe space, so it's confidential. Say, what do you see? And it's really always it's helpful because there are different points. And there's also, in fact, the other one is Google Forms. And Google Forms can, in a very quick, in 5 minutes, identify issues which I haven't spotted yet. To give you an example, I already told a couple of times about my book. I uploaded the first chapter of my book to that Google Forms. And in 5 minutes, I got a podcast back of half an hour where the people, well, the AI robots, were discussing this first chapter. And listening to that, to what they said, okay, they give me a couple of viewpoints, which I hadn't even seen in my book, which they pick out, which are very helpful. So it provides another angle. It doesn't replace us, but it can help to give you viewpoints, to organize facts, to come up with anything, but doesn't replace human intellect. It helps. It shortens time. Yes. That's what it does.
So you feel comfortable with using AI?
Yes, but you always needs to be very critical. Don't trust for 100%.
All right. So my next question to you, sir: any message for young lawyers, especially Indian lawyers?
Yeah. I was only almost trying to make a joke because have you seen the film Love Actually? Love Actually out of 2004. So that there's an old rock star who is then having a Christmas hit. And the question to him is, can you, as an old rock star, give a lesson for young people? And he said, don't buy drugs. Become a pop star, you get them for free. So I'm not going to tell a wise lesson, don't buy drugs. Become a pop star.
Become a pop star.
You get them for free.
You get it for free.
That's not a lesson I'm going to. So listen to people, look into their eyes and ask, do you really believe what you just said? How do you feel about this? That's apart from what you learn in your law firms and at university, one of the most important. The ones I learned throughout my career from my first patron in Harvard Law School and later on during all the various steps I made in my career of now 43 years.
Talk about some your Harvard times if you want to share the best Harvard cases you have been come across.
The Harvard Business School. Yeah, but that was in '88 and it was a 2 weeks negotiation course. So the lessons I learned there was that if you try to negotiate from your legal position, you are entrenched. And it's a negotiation. So there's no third party, no arbitral tribunal, no court who tries to convince you. So you need to do it yourself. If you're entrenched, you're never going to convince each other. And you try to apply pressure, which in Trump's case sometimes helps, but it always will backfire. So the lessons from Harvard are, think in the first place about the interests, the mutual interests. And the example then given is a very famous example about two sisters fighting over one orange. In comes the mother. She looks at her daughters and says, what's happening here? I want the orange. They said, okay. So she cuts 10 off, gives both daughters one half orange. Would she have listened to the daughters and asked about why they wanted the orange, she might have learned that one daughter actually was only interested in the peel of the orange to make marmalade, and the other daughter only in the orange itself to make fruit juice. And that's actually the whole Harvard philosophy. If you learn about the interest and you try to see whether non-conflicting. And if you overcome any emotional issues, because that's very important, which are blocking, then there's room, then there's space to come to a solution which fits actually all those interests, which is better than your best alternative to a negotiated agreement, and which is in fact the best option of them all. And that's the most important lesson I learned in Harvard, not only to resolve disputes, but also to enter into collaboration. If two parties want to make something or to do business together, it's very interesting for them to learn about their interests rather than about their legal positions.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time, and it's been pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for interviewing me, but I will stay tuned. No doubt whatsoever. I wish you a good day.
Namaste. Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening, sir.
Yeah, thank you.